Throughout his career, Clint Eastwood has been known for portraying cowboys in westerns and policemen in crime thrillers. However, he has taken upon himself to also direct, produce, and score movies. Along the way, some of his work has gotten nominated for Academy Awards, including for Best Director, Best Picture, and the Actor and Actress's Performance. Clint Eastwood will not only be remembered for his Best Actor award, he will also be remembered for directing memorable films that fascinated critics and audiences. Before he was an actor, he was a soldier in the Army during the Korean War. While he was stationed in California, he was discharged in 1953, which gave him the opportunity to move to Hollywood and jumpstart his career of being an actor.
I thought you said 3 Shermans. Those nuts have brought half the Army with them.
He appeared across television during the 1950s. He received recognition as the character Rowdy Yates in the hit Western show Rawhide. The show lasted from 1959 to 1965. Afterwards, he received the special opportunity of being cast in Sergio Leone's film A Fistful of Dollars as the Man with No Name. 2 years later, Sergio Leone directed A Few Dollars More. After the success of the sequel, Leone closed his dollar series with the third entry, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The third film was considered one of the best sequels of all time and was glorified by no less than Quentin Tarantino. The 3 spaghetti western films received international success and made Clint Eastwood a superstar. At the end of the Dollar Trilogy, Clint Eastwood had the opportunity to star in his first American western called Hang 'em High, which was released in 1968. In the same year, he worked with director Don Siegel on the crime movie Coogan's Bluff. After the film, he continued to collaborate with Don Siegel by appearing in another western called 2 Mules for Sister Sarah, 1970. A year later, he appeared in 2 more movies, the Civil War drama The Beguiled and Dirty Harry, which made him an icon for his portrayal of Harry Callahan, a merciless police officer. The success of Dirty Harry had given Eastwood 4 other sequels for the Harry Callahan character: Magnum Force, The Enforcer, Sudden Impact, and finally, The Deadpool. While Clint Eastwood was still acting in the 1970s, he also turned to directing films as well. In 1971, he directed Play for Misty, a thriller that focused on a radio DJ, played by Eastwood, who gets stalked by an obsessive female fan, played by Jessica Walter, after they had their romantic encounter. Clint Eastwood returned to making Western films such as High Plains for Drifter, 1973, and The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976. He even dabbled with the espionage drama by making The Iger Sanction, 1975. The actor-director returned to the police detective drama as he released The Gauntlet, 1977, co-starring Sandra Lockey. Eastwood and Sandra Lockey collaborated once again by making Bronco Billy, 1980. The film was very different from his previous westerns as it dabbled with comedy and drama. 2 years later, he made Firefox, 1982, a Cold War story that focused on a pilot who steals a high-tech jet from the Soviets.
Now you come. Homing device just activated. Estimated.
In the same year, the musical drama film Honky Tonk Man was released. It features a Western singer named Red Stovall who is dying of tuberculosis. Eastwood's son, Kyle Eastwood, plays Whit, the nephew of the protagonist. Set during the Great Depression, the main character's quest was to perform at the Grand Ole Opry before he died. Clint Eastwood returned once again with the Western drama by producing, acting, and directing Pale Rider, 1985. The film became one of the most profitable Westerns of the 1980s. The critics even praised Bruce Surtees's cinematography. The following year, he released The Heartbreak Ridge, a drama which concentrates on a retiring Marine who helps a platoon of undisciplined Marines prepare for the invasion of Grenda in 1983. Since Clint Eastwood himself has a talent for playing the piano and loves jazz, he directed the biographical movie Bird, 1988, which depicts the iconic saxophone player Charlie Bird Parker, played by Forrest Whitaker. Clint Eastwood began the decade by releasing White Hunter, Black Heart, 1990, an adaptation of Peter Vietro's novel of the same name. The film is allegedly a thinly disguised account of the author's collaboration with director Justin Huston and The Making of the African Queen, 1951. Clint Eastwood plays John Wilson, who is based on John Huston. In the same year, Clint Eastwood released his buddy cop movie, The Rookie, and also stars Charlie Sheen as the fellow detective.
Who the hell asked you anyways, huh? Shut up.
We got it.
The film received generally negative reviews and was considered to be formulaic and lacking depth. 2 years later, Eastwood revisited the Western drama by acting and directing Unforgiven, 1992. Clint Eastwood plays John Money, a retired gunslinger who takes one last job of avenging a prostitute who was disfigured by a thug. The film received critical praise and audiences all over the world enjoyed the film. Clint Eastwood won for Best Picture and Best Director.
Well, sir, you were a cowardly...
After the success of The Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood collaborated with Kevin Costner in the movie A Perfect World, 1993. Eastwood plays a Texas Ranger who tracks down an escaped convict, played by Kevin Costner, who takes a boy, played by T.J. Lowther, hostage. Both form an unlikely bond. 2 years later, Eastwood made Bridges of Madison County, an adaptation of Robert James Waller's novel. It gave the director a chance to work with Meryl Streep. Meryl plays a farmer's wife who has an affair with a photojournalist, played by Eastwood. In 1997, Clint Eastwood made the mystery film Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, 1997. It is an adaptation of James Brendan's novel, a murder that took place in the Savannah, Georgia.
The killer's identity.
In the same year, Eastwood released Absolute Power and plays a thief on the job who happens to see the Secret Service murder a woman who sexually assaulted the President of the United States, played by Gene Hackman. Clint Eastwood closed 1999 with his film True Crime, a tale about a journalist who covers the execution of a prisoner, played by Isaiah Washington, and discovers that the man might be innocent. The film didn't perform so well at the box office since it only made $16 million on its budget of $50 million. However, it received positive reviews.
Big time. So why don't you just go pour yourself a tall one?
Eastwood continues to be prolific well into the new millennium. He begins the decade by making Space Cowboys, which he stars as the lead of a team of old test pilots, played by Tommy Lee Jones, James Gardner, and Donald Sutherland, who come out of retirement to help NASA by repairing a Soviet satellite. 2 years later, he made a mystery thriller called Bloodwork. It focuses on a retired FBI profiler who believes he can find the serial killer. The following year, he made the critically acclaimed Mystic River, 2003. The film stars Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, and Tim Robbins as childhood friends who live separate lives while still residing in the working-class neighborhoods of Boston, which they all grew up in. When a family tragedy happens, the lives of the three men have been complicated. Eastwood might not have won Best Director or Best Picture. However, Sean Penn and Tim Robbins took home the Oscar for their performances in the film. In 2004, Clint Eastwood released $1 Million Baby. The film told a tale of a boxing trainer who is haunted by his diminished relationship with his own daughter. He takes an aspiring female boxer under his wing to fill that void. The film won the Oscar for Best Picture and Eastwood's second win for Best Director. Hilary Swank and Morgan Freeman won Oscars for their performances too.
The rule? Protect myself at all times.
In 2008, the director's new project was Changeling, a historical piece that tells the true story of mother Christine Collins, played by Angelina Jolie, who had her son found until she realizes that the boy found was an imposter. It took place in Los Angeles in 1928. In the same year, Eastwood released the film Gran Torino. Here, Eastwood played the role of Walt Kowalski, a war veteran living in the suburbs who learns to ignore his prejudice against minorities, as well as protecting the neighborhood of Hmong family. The film was a favorite towards critics and audiences that year. 2 years later, Eastwood collaborated with Tom Hanks to tell the story of famous airplane pilot Chester Sully Sullenberg in the movie Sully. The pilot landed a damaged plane in the Hudson River. In 2018, the actor-turned-director focused on a story about 3 brave Americans who prevented a terrorist attack on a train that is headed to Paris. During the same year, he released The Mule, a drama that focused on a horror culturist and war veteran who becomes a drug smuggler for the drug cartel. The film was praised for Eastwood's direction and performance as the lead character.
Worst pecan pie you've ever tasted. I feel sorry for her husband, but...
Eastwood made another biopic, Richard Jewell. 2019, a story that focused on the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games bombings. 2 years later, Eastwood starred and directed in Cry Macho, a tale that focused on an ex-rodeo star who finds a man's young son home away from his alcoholic mother. During the process, the lead character teaches the boy what it's like to be a responsible man.
I used to be a lot of things, but I'm not now.